I presume this is working all right now. Hello there, you're listening to Always Look on the Bright Side of Life. This is the Somerset Cricket Podcast. My name's Ian Shepherd. Joining me this evening, I've got exiled Tauntonian, where it is grim up north. Steve, how you doing this week?
Just a slapping on the sun cream as usual, mate.
Excellent stuff. And also joining me tonight is the voice of cricket on BBC Radio Somerset, who looks to have visibly aged several years. Saw him on Friday, late on Friday night, bidding him a fond farewell at Cardiff after 4 tortuous days up at Edgbaston. How are you, Gibbo?
I'm a bit weary. Glad to be home. And I just do not understand why they are using the kookaburra ball on hybrid pitches, because it is just killing county cricket.
Well, we shall get to that directly, as they say. But shall we start? Let's do this in chronological order then. The first game we had, because we have had 3 since we did our last episode last week, was Hampshire in the Vitality Blast at Taunton last Thursday. And I'm going to go on a limb, probably say that's my favourite Blast victory of the season. They dug themselves out of a hole. They were behind the 8 ball on a number of occasions and numerous other cliches. They came to the party. They all stood up and were counted. None more so than the skipper. Shall we start with him? Somerset batted first, 209. I've lost, I think it was 209 for 7 they made, and they were in dire straits.
123 for 6, something like that.
127 for 6 in the 14th over, and it was not looking good. But then the 2 Lewises came to the party.
Yeah.
Stood up, were counted, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah, I was really pleased for Lewis Goldsworthy. Because, all right, he's been bowling well, but it's the first bat he's had at senior level all season. Mm-hmm. He looked as if he'd never been away. And he provided the perfect support for Lewis Gregory. Early on, he gave Gregory the strike. Later on in the partnership, he started playing his own shots. And they just worked really, really well together. And Lewis Gregory's been in the form of his life with the bat this season. Mm-hmm. And it was a proper captain's innings. And, but for that partnership, we wouldn't have won. Simple as that.
I was pleased for Goldsworthy as well, because he showed that he can clear the ropes when he needs to. He made, where's it gone? I should have this to hand. 29 from 16, 3 4s and a 6. Steve, he just seems to be a completely changed cricketer since Neville Road a couple of weeks ago. Brimming with confidence.
Well, I think when you're not inside, it's going to affect your confidence. And it's that, do I actually belong here mentality? But as you said, he played it perfectly, didn't he? The way he sort of grew into the innings, because it could have been so easy to just get stuck at one end and then have had an almighty slog and got out. And we said it before on here, I think he's a really intelligent cricketer. He read the game situation very well. And you looked at it and you thought 209, is that enough given the scores we've had recently? And then it was probably 209 that felt to the opposition like about 240, do you think? If you see what I mean. Because, 127 for 6, they were thinking, we're chasing 160, 170 here. So I think psychologically it definitely was the defining partnership of the game. But I think, it's like Ben Green. We've got these players who just seem to be able to come in and perform that other counties would die to have in their side, I'm sure. And just, it's a really tricky management job, but great for him. I'd almost want Jack Leach to get called up to into the test squad in a way to give him a chance in a 4-day game. Because, God, if he was in the side as the slow left armer, I think how long the batting line would be then.
Yeah, we'd have about 6 or 7 all-rounders.
And I know Anthony's going to say Goldsworthy's nowhere near the slow left armer that Jack Leach is, and I take that. I'm just sort of making the point that, I'd love to be able to get him into the championship side at some point. But then it's only Archie Vaughan probably, and then you end up with 2 slow left armers. So, and I know we'll come on to the red boys. Too many conundri at the moment.
Well, the good news from Somerset's perspective, with a lot of county championship matches coming up, 6 more before the end of the season, is that Jack Leach is probably not going to get the call up unless there's an injury to Shoaib Bashir. So that's looking promising for us. Will Smead as well, I thought batted very maturely at the top of the order with wickets falling around him to a degree. 68 from 37 he made. I think, again, he's having a really good start to this Vitality Blast campaign.
Yeah, and I spoke to him afterwards, and he said he's been making a conscious effort not to go too hard, not to give it away in the first couple of overs, but just to have a little bit of a look and be a bit more careful in his shot selection. And it's really paying dividends. And it must have been a close call between him and Tom Kohler-Cadmore as to who was called up to open the innings with Josh Davey in the Warwickshire game after both Will Smead and TKC have been doing so well have been looking in really good form in the Blast.
I've heard a rumour that they listened to your suggestion on this here podcast last week, Gibbo.
Well,
where you suggested TKC. I mean, we'll come on to that in a minute because I've got a few thoughts about the TKC one. But what was interesting with Smead as well on Thursday night was that was the first game that we batted first. Every other game we decided we want to chase, or the opposition decided that they wanted us to chase. And it's a different beast, Steve, isn't it? Chasing when you've seen 20 overs of what the ball's doing and how the pitch is behaving to setting. And I think it's not necessarily Will's natural game. He likes to go out, likes to feel bat on ball, and just giving yourself maybe 5 or 6 balls to size up the surface. I thought he was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, the last 2 games where we've been chasing, you haven't even had 5 or 6 balls, have you? You've had to go from ball 1. And we said here that, perhaps we needed to change the formula. We wanted to see us chase and set and win games both ways around. And, the bowlers, I'm jumping ahead, but the bowlers came to the party big time for me. I mean, to be honest, I didn't think at any point in that run chase was I worried that Hampshire were going to get close.
Oh, I was. Yeah.
No,
I was more confident of us chasing the score against Kent that we ended up not chasing than defending the total against Hampshire. We did end up.
It's weird, isn't it? I mean, it's perception, it's reality. It was just
James Vince can chase anything down as long as he was.
Yeah,
I know. It was the catch that Overton took that ultimately decided the game. If James Vince hadn't got out, then he was more than capable of taking them home.
Yeah, he had a little strip about it, but it was clean, went in clean as a whistle. I had a great view of it. I was down with Jeff, the photographer, stood by the floodlight. We got a really great view. It was straight, clean in. I mean, he took a great one. Kohler-Cadmore took a great one as well in front of Gimlet Hill. And I think I read somewhere that our successful catch percentage is like 98.3%, something like that. So we're clearly carrying on these incredible fielding standards from years gone by. Absolutely brilliant. And then, Riley Meredith as well. I thought he was fantastic Thursday and Friday night, particularly Friday night. Just an all-round solid, not knowing when you're beaten performance. I mean, let's go back to that partnership between the two Lewises. The way that they saw off Dawson and Benny Howe's little dribbly drobblers. And then there was an over that went for about 25, which would have been, I think, off of Scott Curry, maybe, or it might have been Fuller, or it might have been Eddie Jack. I'm not sure. It was definitely one of them.
Yeah, I
seem to misplace my book with my notes from the Somerset innings. But just can't speak highly enough of that partnership, the way they both played and kept their cool and knew that you can all of a sudden flick a switch. You don't need to go through the gears at Taunton. You can go from first to fifth in a matter of balls and go from knocking Liam Dawson around for 3 and over to smashing the next guy for 14, 15, 16 and over.
And it's every one of the team has now made if not a match winning, then a very significant contribution to winning a match, which is where you want to be, isn't it, at this stage of the competition? I mean, I said last week on the podcast, wouldn't it be nice? We said the Hampshire game was a bit of an 8-pointer. And I was like, whoa, wouldn't slightly wishful thinking, I think, but it was, wow, to go into the way through the season with only one defeat. It's, it must be a huge confidence boost for them. And it's just a joy to watch. As I said last week, let's enjoy it while we can. And I'm not saying this won't continue, but it's just fantastic at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just looking up and down. I mean, you look at the players that were leaving out of the side. James Rew, that incredible knock he played up at finals day last year. Tom Lammonby's in the form of his life, can't get in the team. You got Miguel Pretorius again, who's playing brilliantly in 4-day cricket. Looks like he'd be a really useful T20 cricketer. Or he is a really useful T20 cricketer if you look at his stats and his performances back in his native South Africa. He can't get in the team. It's incredible. Casey Aldridge as well, played in the final last year. It was really important with runs and wickets that he scored in that 2023 campaign. Can't get in the tight. It's mad.
And both games we rested Matt Henry and then Craig in the game. So that as well, to be able to do that and still come through with 2 strong wins is a great sign.
Well, so we move on to the next of those strong wins then. Cardiff was the venue on Friday night for Glamorgan against Somerset. Thankfully, no repeat of last year's, I'm going to say, blot on the copybook when Kieran Carlson and Marnus Labuschagne, Carlson with the bat and Labuschagne with the ball, sent us back to Taunton with our pants down, having given us a bloody good hiding. But apart from the first 2 overs, Gibbo, it was pretty much all one-way traffic in the Principality on Friday night.
It was. I don't think I've ever known a game change quite so quickly, because they were about 30 for half 2, something like that. and I thought, oh God, here we go again with Smale and Kieran Carlson. And the first couple of overs were pretty poor, and then they just kept roaring back, and there was some great bowling, and wickets fell with great regularity, and in the end it was a very comfortable win for a win for the bowlers. And I interviewed Jason Kerr at the end of that because of that, and he was absolutely delighted. And it was the complete bowling performance. I thought,
it was.
They all contributed. They all bowled to a plan, and Glamorgan had absolutely no answer to it. And Glamorgan, frankly, were outclassed. And I thought that game showed us at our the combination really of the Hampshire game and the Glamorgan game showed Somerset at their last best. And they're going to take we're going to take a lot of beating.
It was that innings was the epitome of the best way to slow the run rate down is to take wickets, wasn't it? Because once you got that early breakthrough, it was just that steady. Well, there wasn't really a time, was there, that their innings got going after that? But you know what I mean? We didn't give the innings a chance to get going again. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
It was very enjoyable, especially commentating with the Welsh boys.
Well, yeah, Steve Watkin was there.
He's a nice guy, though.
Yeah, I always think of him as the Welsh Andy Caddick. I don't know why.
Yeah. Well, he's big. Tall.
Maybe it's the ears.
Yeah. Not quite as quick as Caddick. Not quite.
No, I was certainly not as quick as Andy Caddick.
It was more of a nibbler, wasn't he? I had a lovely calm drive up to Cardiff on Friday night, Gib. I did do a hook and tease midway through last week's podcast that didn't pay off. My cunning plan is I drove straight up to Swansea, where my old man lives, on Thursday night. Got there about midnight. Had a lovely sleep. Did a bit of work remotely during the day, and then we had a lovely. It was probably had about 50 minutes to an hour. Lovely leisurely drive to Cardiff. No traffic at all. It was absolutely beautiful. Lovely lunch in the pub outside the ground. What about your trip, Gibber? How was that?
It was 4 hours in 30-degree heat.
Oh.
With the Indian bats piling on the runs on Test match special as well. So no.
Oh, dear. Well, yeah, I thought after it took me about 4 hours last year, Gibber. So I thought there's no way I'm doing that again this year. So I have to.
And also, it's a good job we didn't ask Gibbo to call in at Neville Road and pick up the trophy, because it would be 6 hours then, wouldn't it?
Yes, I did have a quick look at the odds for the Vitality Blast. Somerset are 11-4 favourites. I think you can get 300 to 1 Gloucester to retain their trophy, and it's pretty much any price you like Essex. So, not that I'm gloating about that or anything at all. So a lovely day at the cricket at Spy Guys and Real Man on Friday. I also met Sean, who's a big fan of the podcast. Nice to meet you finally, Sean, after many Twitter interactions. And the guy in the queue, I think his name was Paul. I'm absolutely terrible at remembering people's names. The guy and his lad in the queue for the sort of the beer wagon at half time. Says I've got a lovely sense of humour and he likes the way I take the piss out of that miserable old Gibbo. I'm not sure who he's thinking of. It must have been when Danielle Gibson was on another podcast. Maybe I'm not sure that's who he's thinking of. But
old Git, yes, miserable.
Well, I tell you what, I'm not very miserable because I was comparing this campaign and this team with the 2023 team and the 2023 campaign. And I mean, I'm very optimistic. I mean, touch wood, everything like that. You don't want to say we are deserved favourites. On paper, looking at it unbiasedly, we have been the best team in the campaign so far. And I know things can change. What I think is different and better this year is I think the batting is on another level now. I think the batting is up 1, maybe 2 levels from where it was in 2023. Because I think you go through that batting lineup, which is more or less the same, but I think every batter in that top 6 or 7 has improved. And we now have better players. Lammonby's improved, Rue's improved to come in and keep those guys on their toes and say to them,
What about Tom Abel, though? What about Tom Abel?
I'm not worried about Tom Abel at all. Not at all. I think that if you look at the
great Nick in either form, in all honesty, and I'm Tom Abel's greatest supporter, but he didn't look in great nick up at Edgbaston, and he hasn't looked in great nick in the Blast.
Form's temporary, class is permanent. I think you
put
look
your
at
money on a Tom Abel century at Taunton at the weekend, everyone, because that's what's going to happen.
Hopefully.
Look at the games that we've played, though. They've been chasing all the big totals that we did against. Who was it? The one, the Middlesex. Kent. Those aren't really Tom A. If he comes off, that's great. But I wouldn't say Tom Abel's the man for the job. I'd say Will Smead and Tom Calder-Cameron, Sean Dixon and Lewis Gregory are the men for that job. I'd say, it's nibbling around, and you got players, like we saw against Hampshire, Benny Howe, Liam Dawson, little nibblers, little dibbly dobblers. The pitch is doing a bit. It's a bit slow, long boundaries. You're chasing 160, 170. That's when Tom Abel's going to come out, manipulate the field, find the twos, find the rope occasionally, and score you 78 not out off 60 balls and win the game. And I think you've got to have him in the lineup because you can't just stack it with power hitters. You've got to have that class in there as well. And that's why I think I just don't
think I can agree with all of that. I just don't think he's in great form. And I think there is a case for including for giving Tom Lammonby a go.
Yeah, I think I would disagree. I think Abel's got to be missing a leg to be dropped for me.
Don't say that.
I think you know what I mean. I think
his hammy issues. We don't want to jinx that one.
That's true, but I think he's got to be in such poor form. I mean, how was he out? Dan Douthwaite did him with a slower one at Cardiff, and any inside edge one off Benny Howell against Hampshire. So he's not in great nick, but I wouldn't say he's in disastrous nick. And I think he's good enough. He's been our best bat for probably 5, 6, 7 years across all formats. Not worried.
I'll nicely tuck in behind Gibbo in the how much I love Tom Abel stakes, but I think I'm right on your heels, Gibbo, there. I think he's such a selfless cricketer that I think sometimes maybe that acts to the detriment of his own performance. That he's so he's in his mind, he's still the leader. I think in wants to go out and lead from the front and delivering.
Yeah.
And he's moved down the order again to accommodate James Rew batting at 4. And 4 is a really difficult position to bat in that Somerset T20 side because, if you're 2 down quickly, you've probably got quite a hill to climb. Or if you come in when we are 167 for 2, chasing 230, that's difficult. I mean, they make it look easy at these days. You've got to get some perspective. Just quickly referring to the Test match, my dad, bless him, if he was still alive, and I said to him, "Well, you missed the Test match, but England chased 370 in pretty much a day to win the Test on the 5th day at Headingley," he would go, "No, so are you on something?" Because it just 270 would have been a big ask years ago, and it's great fun, it's great entertainment. Glad I don't bowl in cricket anymore because I think I'd have hated it. But it is so. We look now and we say, "Oh, they've got to get 70 off the last 6 overs." And Lewis Gregory and Dixon and co come in and make it look so simple. It is incredibly difficult against that quality of bowling and fielding to do that. And 4, therefore, I think is a really difficult position. I actually, because I love Abe's so much, I wouldn't mind him having a couple of the T20 games off. Just because, like we said earlier, Lammonby fully merits a place in the side. And I don't think it would do any harm. And you cut Tom Abel and bleed Somerset. If you said to him, just have a couple of games out because it would be, we think the side is going to be a tad stronger at the moment, I don't think he would have a problem with that. And he'd come back even stronger. He will make some crucial contributions this season in our remaining fixtures. I have no doubt about that.
If I was Tom Abel and someone said that to me, if it was an offer, I would refuse it. Because, I'm not in, admittedly, I know, not in the best net. And, you give up your spot at your peril.
Yeah,
There makes a 60, makes a 70. All of a sudden, there's a question mark over your place. And I'd rather be there, score the runs, win the game for my team than, go to have the day off and go to Legoland or whatever.
When Ian Botham made his Test debut, I was 15. Yeah. And I remember listening to Test Match Special, parked in a car park because my mum had gone to the opticians. This is how clearly I remember it. And she let me stay in the car and listen to the commentary. And I willed with every fibre in my being for him to succeed in that Test match. And obviously he did. And then when Brian Rose made his England debut, when Vic Marks went, and that I thought that was something as a 15, 16, 17-year-old. I genuinely, when I'm either listening or as I had to with the Yorkshire game this week, sort of follow it slightly distantly, absolutely with every fibre want Tom Abel to succeed. Probably, I shouldn't really say this, but probably more than any other Somerset player. If maybe it's me, maybe I'm not wishing enough and I need to up my psychic support for him, but it just, I'd want nothing more than him to get an unbeaten 100 in the championship and take us to the title. I would die happy. I genuinely would.
Because we see the passion that we have for the club reflected in Abe's. Yep. That's why, more than any other player. So that's all you can ask for as a player. It doesn't matter how good you are. All you want them to do is put the effort in that you would do if you were out there wearing the dragon on the shirt with a maroon with the blue cap on, playing with Somerset in the county championship. Leave nothing out there. Give it all, and that's all that we can ask for as supporters.
And we would have given, or I can't speak for both of you, I think I can probably guess, I know a 17, 18-year-old me would have given my dad's left arm, and he was left-handed, by the way, to have played for Somerset. Do you know what I mean? It was that, I was that desperate that it would have been everything. And Abe's, to me, is like the me that succeeded and did that. And as you say, it just makes you so proud. And I think he knows how much everybody loves him and supports him. And I hope he doesn't put more pressure on himself. And I've just got a good feeling about this weekend. I think he's going to come good at the weekend. He's got a good record against Notts.
He certainly has.
Well, he's got a good record against most people. Yeah. Don't ask him. You're causing trouble with his hamstrings. What do you mean to bowl now?
If I never see Tom Abel bowl again, it's not a problem.
It's a shame.
It is a shame. Well, yes, we do have a certain possible title decider coming up at the County Ground on Sunday, which we'll get to in a second. First, Sunday gone did mark the resumption of County Championship cricket with everybody's favourite game-killing device, the Kookaburra ball, up at Edgbaston. Somerset taking on Warwickshire in the County Championship. Somerset, well, won the toss. Standing captain Craig Overton won the toss, batted first. Lewis Gregory absent on paternity leave. And 498, or before that, Tom Kohler-Cadmore was in the squad. And as decided by our panel of selectors
Selection panel
last
Mr.
week,
Gibson.
Tom Kohler-Cadmore was brought in to open the batting, which I found a slightly odd and not odd choice, because for the reasons we outlined last week, you need to score quickly to win, with a flat pitch, ball them out twice, got to get your runs quickly, that's fine. But Tom Kohler-Cadmore is not Red Bull contracted. He is on an ad hoc pay-as-you-play County Championship Red Bull deal, which means the likes of Will Smead, Andy Mead, Sean Dixon, Finn Hill, Josh Thomas, and Lewis Goldsworthy. Again, have I missed any other specialist batters out of that little lineup?
Ben Green.
Ben Green as well. Well, I don't know what the deal with his Leicester loan is, but
innings back in 2020. Don't forget.
He did, but yeah, I presume if we don't want him to go, he's back at Leicester now, so he's doing quite well actually in that round of games.
Yeah.
But if we wanted him back, he would come back. He's our player. So, particularly Will Smead, who is Red Bull contracted and has been doing a decent job in the T20s, is in reasonable nick, to overlook him for the guy who's not Red Bull contracted. I just wonder, is that a little bit of a snub? Or, I mean, it was the right choice. If it was up to me, that's who I would have picked, Tom Kohler-Cadmore. You two agree with that?
It's been very close. Yeah. I mean, they've both been in very good form in the Blast. I mean, Kohler-Cadmore, apart from down at home, hasn't got many runs, but he's looked good while he's been out there. And Will Smead is obviously a much better bat this year than he was last year. So it must have been a very close run thing. But you can't argue. TKC himself was very modest about his innings. He played and missed a lot early on, and the old stuff about that's the way I play, and I had a bit of luck. But you can't knock an opening partnership with Josh Davey of 186.
I know. I mean, yeah, that was 64 as well. I mean, he seems absolutely determined to not get that first class 100. He's had golden opportunities now. I mean, it's only like Jack Brooks. No disrespect to Jack Brooks, can retire from the game with a first class ton under his belt. Josh Davey should have about 6 or 7 if Jack Brooks can get one. I mean, let's hope he comes at Chelmsford in pursuit of that victory, which seals us the championship in late September. But nonetheless, yeah, the right call. Tom Kohler, you thought he batted really well. As you say, he didn't go bananas. He put the bad ball away. See off that initial 5-10 overs of swing that the Kookaburra gives you, and then he just. But he didn't really even just cash in. He just batted sensibly and got 100, which is how disarmingly simple batting can be sometimes.
100 and about
just don't get out.
127 deliveries, something like that.
Yeah, it's all right. Don't get out. Hit the ball on the ball. You get 100.
He was playing every ball on its merits. He wasn't trying to force things as he can do sometimes. It was a fine innings. I was very pleased for him. And Josh Davies has actually got very good defensive technique. He plays very straight, a bit like Lewis Gregory. It wouldn't surprise me if we see Lewis Gregory and Josh Davey reunited for the Nottinghamshire game, despite the success of TKC, because Gregory's got a better defensive technique than Kohler-Cadmore. Yeah. But we'll see. But I think they ought to persevere with Josh Davey as he's done enough to
Yeah. And you would think as well, with us needing to beat Notts, that there's going to be a little bit of something in the pitch on Sunday morning. So you probably would maybe want the guy with a little bit of a better defence.
Well, I just hope to God they're not playing on another hybrid. Well,
I wouldn't have thought so, because it's still a Kookaburra round, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not kind of totally au fait with the science here, but I would have thought the hybrid pitches would be a little bit harder and rough that kookaburra ball up a little bit more, so you could get the reverse swing, which we use to great effect in sort of between like 50 and 80 overs in their first innings.
Yeah. I mean, the ball management that Somerset showed in the Warwickshire first innings was fantastic. And that's not me saying that, that's Dermot Reeves saying that, who knows a lot more about these things than I do. You know, he was one of the originators of reverse swing. But the way they looked after that ball and got it to reverse and then bowled to make the most of the reverse was absolutely exemplary. I thought, you know, it was really well thought out. They came out on whichever morning it was, the third morning, with a plan, and then they executed that plan to perfection. And I think, you know, that's the way probably we'll have to go at Taunton against Notts. But if it is a hybrid pitch, and we know it's going to be another kookaburra, it could, I'm afraid, be another ball draw, as it was. When was it when Joe Clark got 200? Was that the year before?
I've tried
3, I think.
I've tried to strike it from my memory, Gibbon. I think it was last year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was it?
I don't know. Last year, Pretoria's played in that game. I'm fairly sure.
I don't know.
So I think it was last year. We've got to.
But it's got to be, you know, they've got to produce a result pitch. Because we've got to beat Notts twice. Yeah,
because they aren't. I mean, a pitch. You remember the pitch up at Trent Bridge? I think it was last year.
Dear.
Yeah, exactly. You can flash back to it now. But they were messing about.
Ollie Stone.
James Root.
How many did he get? God knows.
I don't know.
Did he get 100? I think he got 100, didn't he?
I don't know, but I remember James Root bowling off spin.
Yeah.
Jamie thought the physio coming on as a sub fielder for a giggle towards the end. That's what they're going to do, and they've got every right to do it, and we do it as well. If they're ahead, they want to preserve their lead, so you know they're going to produce a pitch where they should probably see us off with a draw. I mean, they did it the week just gone against Yorkshire, who they probably would have fancied themselves to beat.
Yeah,
honestly.
Johnny Bairstow bowled in that game, which sort of goes back to James Root bowling off breaks. I think Johnny Bairstow bowling's even more of a admission that the game's more dead than the dodo.
I mean, those are the pitches that need points deducted and fines and whatever, not pitches that turn a little bit. But if that's Notts' attitude to play it, safety first. A bit like when Surrey came down to our place last season, they could have won the title at Taunton. Tom Curran could have ran round a pitch with a trophy held aloft, rubbing it into all us peasants' faces. But they chose not to. Let's hope it doesn't come back to bite Notts on the bum like it did Surrey. We have skipped over a quite magnificent Tom Lammonby 100 as well.
Yeah,
back-to-back hundreds in the county championship. One a couple of weeks ago, seeing us home up at Chester Street, and then a career best 133 up at Edgbaston. First time he's ever made 2 championship hundreds in a season. The 3 made in 2020 were in the Bob Willis. He just seems to be going from strength to strength.
Yeah, beautiful innings. And he managed to keep his brain farts to an absolute minimum. There were 1 or 2. There weren't one when he just sort of completely lost concentration and went for a ridiculous shot, but he got away with it. But there were fewer than there often are.
Yeah.
Just a little bit disappointed he didn't go on a bit more than 133 because his previous best was 116.
Well,
once he got past that, I thought, he's going to go up to 150 because the conditions could not have been much more favourable.
Talking around that, then I think we got ourselves in a right piggle and palaver over that 5th batting point on the second morning.
Yeah, I said to you both when we were emailing each other earlier, unfortunately because of work, which has been get the violins going, horrendously busy this week. So, having listened to Gibbo the whole of Sunday, I've hardly had a chance. I've hardly had a chance to even catch up on the highlights. So, apologies to everyone listening. You've not got someone on here tonight who's got a deep knowledge of the game. But I said to you guys, I've got some questions. So, my question there was, Exactly that, chaps. I think we got ourselves into a bit of a hole, and we got caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. Then we made it really, and Anthony will probably correct me, or he will correct me if I'm wrong here, but my perception was that we got ourselves to a point where we had two established batsmen, but it was a bit too much to go for the extra batting point. And so rather than, and what I wanted them to do was bat and bat and bat, because I thought the only way to win that game, again, caveat, my distance, was to be able to enforce the follow on. And I'm not being wise because they saved the follow on by 3 runs, but I would like to see Lammers and Abel back through to lunch, and then maybe have had some fun after lunch, or the leading up to tea or something. And I was looking at 650 at that point, and they got out. We lost. How many wickets did we lose in that hour before lunch? 3.
Yeah, it wasn't great. I'm trying to remember, what was the equation on Monday morning then? Was it Monday morning?
We lost 7 for 91.
But what do we need to get to 450?
We were 328 for 3 overnight.
The problem was that Tom Abel is not in great form, and he got bogged down, and Lambie wasn't much better, and they got behind the rate that they needed to be at in order to get the 5th point.
There was one stage where I thought they were going to.
They decided, we ought to go. When they got the 4th, they decided, we ought to go for the 5th one, and started hitting out, and then hitting out and got out. Whereas if they just paced the partnership a bit better, then they could have got to the 5th batting point without taking outrageous risks. But it sort of reinforced my point about Tom Abel not being in great form, and he didn't actually bat terribly well on the second week. So anyway, it was a shame, because if Craig Everton said to me when I spoke to him at the end, the plan was to get 600, and if they got 600, they would have been able to enforce the follow on, and the outcome might have been different. Although I don't think it would have been. I think I just could not see us bowling Warwickshire in less than a day. Even with Jack Leach and Pretorius and Overton and Matt Henry and all the rest of it, on that pitch we just got more and more easy paced. There was nothing in it for Jack Leach once the ball started to go soft. We were never going to take, what was it, 19 wickets in 2 days was what it amounts to, because they were 158 for 1 at the end of the second day. So we had to take 19 wickets in 2 days on that pitch with a kookaburra ball. It was never going to happen.
Yeah, I agree with you, Gib. I think they just didn't. They didn't start off day 2 by just knocking around and scoring at 3.5, 4 and over with low risk. Like you said, with Abe not being in his normal fluency, he was, instead of balls where he would just manoeuvre them into a gap as a defensive shot, he was kind of having to play an orthodox defensive shot rather than, I didn't feel his confidence or touch was there just to sort of run it into the gap. So.
But if you look on the bright side, we come out of that round of games in a slightly better position.
Well, I was thinking about that on Friday. The only result in that round of fixtures was Surrey beating Worcestershire, which you would have expected to happen. So that's that's not really going to get you. That's part of the course. The big tick, as I said earlier, was Notts at the top of the table, not getting a win against lowly Yorkshire. That may come back to bite them. And then every other game was a draw. So it's kind of as you were, apart from Surrey beating Worcester, which you kind of expected to happen. And let's not hope that our failure to take that 10th Worcester wicket in the first game comes back to bite us.
Yeah.
We've got a feeling it may well do. Yeah, I don't think there was much more they could have done. I was thinking about my opinion on bonus points and how bad they are, because they've kind of interfered in how that match progressed.
Well, if you'd
done away with bonus points, forget about bonus points. Let's say you've got the two. Here's a scenario, which isn't ever going to happen, but it would be my ideal scenario. Forget about bonus points during the game, and then at the end of the game, you have a bit like boxing. You have 3 or 4 impartial judges, wise, knowledgeable sages of the game look at the result independently and completely impartially and say, well, you played very well in that game. You deserve 3 bonus points. You weren't very good, so you don't get any. Instead of having this completely silly situation, arbitrary situation where we've decided that 450 and 110 overs is worth 5 points, and 400 is worth 4, and so on and so forth. I just hate them. The more I think about it, the more I hate bonus points. I love them in the Women's Blast because they relate to how well you've played in that game compared to the opposition and how well you've won, how dominant you were in that game. If you're really dominant in a game, you get an extra point for being so good in that game. You don't both get a bonus point for getting 50 runs. You don't get 2 points for getting 100 runs. It relates to your performance in that game. And if there was a way of translating that to county championship cricket instead of these arbitrary 9 wickets and 110 overs or 450 and 110 overs, I would be all for it. But at the moment, I can't stand them.
But the problem as well is where, I think we would have all had a decent wager at whatever odds if we'd have been told to on the draw before that game even started.
Oh, for
Probably
sure.
before anyone got to the ground, let's say.
Mm.
So in that situation, excuse me, bonus points become that much more important the way the scoring system is, don't they?
Yes.
Because if you accept that you're going to get the draw, you want to maximise the bonus points, and then it does dictate the way the game's played. And I agree. I'm not against bonus points per se, but I don't think it's right the way it is at the moment. But then we come back to the point we've made about how many points you get for a draw compared to a win.
Well, Tom Abel and Tom Lammerby coming out that second morning would have had no idea how the pitch was going to play towards the end of day 3 and day 4. So they wouldn't have known whether they really needed to, it's going to definitely be a draw. The pitch is going to stay flat. We need to get 450 at whatever cost. Doesn't matter if we get it off 9 down off the last ball in the 110th over, because that's all we're going to get from this game. A result is practically impossible because the pitch is going to stay flat.
But surely, Ian,
we get 600 in the first 2 days. The pitch is going to deteriorate days 3 and 4. We've got a really good chance of bowling them out twice.
Yeah, but the only way.
But I know, but I mean, you don't know that, do you? I mean,
yes, you do.
You've got a good idea. You can make a very educated and experienced guess, but you don't 100% know. Everybody knew at 5 o'clock on September the 12th, 2024, that Surrey and Somerset were going to draw.
It was patently obvious that if Somerset were going to win that game, they had to put 600 on the board, and then
they had to bat once.
That was the only way that Somerset were going to win the game. I think the only thing you can say for bonus points is that they do provide a little bit of in-game interest and excitement as to whether the side can get up to the 5th batting point or the 4th batting point. And if it's a situation in which not much else is happening, which is quite often the case,
I agree with that. But
more than 400 runs on the board, it does give the crowd something to take a real interest in, rather than the batsman just grinding on.
It's Heisenberg's uncertainty principle.
Oh my goodness!
Right.
There you go.
There's a title for a podcast.
You cannot observe an experiment without affecting its result. So therefore, let's go back to my earlier point. If you said to Somerset, just bat, and then our wise group of judges will tell you how many bonus points your innings was worth at the end of it, rather than kind of getting yourself all in a bit of a palaver because you're trying to get the 450 and 110 overs.
You're right about it. Absolutely right. Yeah. That's
Can I just say to everyone?
If it hadn't been,
can I just say to everyone listening at this point, I'm slightly worried that we are now, Gibbo and I are being taught like children in the school, because for the first time ever we got set homework this week before the podcast.
Did we?
So yeah, I don't know whether Sheps is having a career change or his inner teacher is coming out or something, but please don't ask us to read up on Heisenberg's theory or whatever.
We could have done with Professor Chris on if we were talking about Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. He'd have been able to explain it a lot better than I would, but you kind of get what I'm talking about, don't you? Anything else on Edgbaston then? Look, Craig Overton, as you said, the guys with the old ball.
Really well. Craig,
Yeah.
As well.
Field placing, I thought the planning that went in. Obviously, it wasn't just Craig; it was the coaches as well. But I thought Somerset planned well. They executed well. He tried everything he possibly could yesterday afternoon to get wickets. But in the end, the ball and the pitch, and Sam Hayne, who is a very, very solid, stalwart county cricketer, who averages over 40 in first-class cricket. Why he's never played for England? I mean, he's up the sort of James.
He's the James Hildreth of this generation, isn't he?
He is.
Yeah.
And he was, as I said on commentary, it was the irresistible force of Craig Overton being the immovable object of Sam Hayne.
Can I just say, Anthony, I am very lucky doing the job I do, because I know most people go, "Oh my God, how can an accountant say he's lucky?" I genuinely enjoy my job. There's very rarely a day I get up and do I've got to do this today. But pretty much every day when there's cricket on, I do have a big envious streak of you, Gibbo, going to the cricket. However, when I was driving home on Wednesday evening and reflecting on the game that had finished, I had to say that I thought my day was probably slightly more enjoyable and entertaining than yours have been, and I felt a huge amount of sympathy for you. That those are the days that make the good days worthwhile, aren't they?
Yeah, I got a bit.
Yeah. Hopefully, more good days to come.
No.
I've just got one more final point on Edgbaston. The game was called off, I think, at the earliest point it could have been. Is that right, Gibbo?
Yeah, just about spot on.
Yeah.
5:30. No, we went on for half an hour later than it could have been called.
Okay.
Which was fair enough. I thought Craig got it absolutely right. It wasn't anything going on beyond 5:30, but he gave it just that extra half an hour. Because if they'd managed to get rid of Sam Hayne, Warwick should have got quite a long.
Yeah, the tail. Yeah.
As long as Hayne was there, we were never going to win.
You don't think there was any chance of that a repeat of that mad hour we had against Surrey last year?
No, because the pitch.
No.
Jack. You need Jack Leach to be able to getting something out of the pitch, and Jack Leach took the new ball. That's how ridiculous things are, because that was his best chance of getting wickets. Once the thing got soft, even into the bowler's footmarks, he was getting turned, but it was so slow that the good batsman just adjust to it and play it off the pitch. It was.
Ian, to bastardise your earlier reference to boxing, you say the game was called off to avoid any further punishment for the commentators, I think.
Well, right. Speaking of the commentators, it was very.
That was a late. Hey, we're getting good at this, aren't we?
Yeah, segues left, right, and centre. Very happy to hear Dermot Reeve back on the air after all the troubles he's had in his personal life over the last few years. There's a fantastic interview he did with TalkSport that's available on YouTube. Have a look at that. But Dermot's definitely had his demons over the last few years, and great to see him getting his career back on track, because it's. No disrespect to yourself, Anthony, or any of the other BBC commentators who travel the length and breadth of the country, bring us fantastic coverage over the season. But apart from, I think, Kevin James, there's not that many sort of bona fide.
Isn't there some bloke at Essex who occasionally played county cricket? I can't remember his name.
I don't know, but just hearing...
David something, is it? I don't know.
I don't know. But just hearing Dermot Reeve, who's I've always respected as one of the keenest and innovative minds in the game. I remember sort of growing up when I was talking about you being 15 when Botham was making his debut. I was 15 when that Warwickshire side were dominating the 90s under his captaincy, winning championships and one-day trophies, and he was innovator in one-day cricket with he's one of the first really to sort of about taking pace off and slower balls and off cutters as well.
Very sweet.
So really good that
he was back. A really irritating cricketer to play against. And when you were supporting Somerset, it just used to drive me screwy watching him play against us, because he would do those out of the box things.
Yeah. But just hearing him sort of give his game analysis as what's going on with sort of you as the lead and the summarise, it was magnificent.
Yeah, it was. Sunday was really enjoyable, Anthony, for that.
Well, I enjoyed chatting to him about his time at Somerset and about particularly with Mark Lathwell and what happened to poor old Mark. I mean, he was very, very interesting on all of that, and that it was a great era in Somerset's cricket history.
And that YouTube, everyone, that Shep's referred to, I'm 3/4 of the way through it. It is very good, but it is a hard watch stroke listen.
He doesn't. It's very candid. He doesn't leave anything.
He's been to hell
anything unsaid. Yeah,
but well worth listening to because of that.
I do hope. I mean, he's very keen to make a career of cricket. He summarises rather than commentates. And because he is very analytical, he has got a very good cricket. He does see things that I don't see. And I really hope that he makes it.
Yeah,
he's got some way to go before he's as good as Mark Davis, though. I would have to.
Is he Birmingham based now, Anthony?
No, he lives in Portsmouth.
Oh, okay.
Portsmouth.
Oh, so we might be able to get into the county ground if
I'd
the BBC budget runs to the expenses.
Yeah,
if you're listening, Ben, I'd love to have him on the live stream.
Yeah,
back to Taunton for a while. One of my favourite. Do you remember back in the 90s? One of my favourite Dermot Reeve anecdotes. I think they were batting out for a draw against Hampshire, and they had a left arm spinner. I think it was called Rajesh Maru.
Yeah.
Yes.
That ring a bell?
Yeah.
Maru was bowling left arm over into the footmarks outside Dermot Reeve's leg stump, and he just kept throwing his bat away and padding it away. Because if your hand's not holding the bat and it hits your glove, it's not out. So he thought, well, I should hold my bat, but if I don't need it, I'll just chuck it away. And that was Dermot Reeve. He was, that still is. He's just coming up with ways of solving problems, and I think that's what made him such a good captain, such a good director of cricket when he was here with us as well. I mean, he would have probably come up with Trescothick Field on his knees 2 or 3 years earlier if he'd been here. But
if he was a coach now in the current T20 era, he would still be innovating despite all the innovation that's happening. If you know what I mean, he's just got he just thinks outside the box, and that's what I enjoyed about listening to the interview, that you actually see inside. Not you don't enjoy listening to anyone opening up about their personal demons, but you understand how his psyche worked and why he was such an innovator. And back in the day, I think Matthew Fleming wasn't far behind, the Kent captain at the time. Very completely bonkers, Matthew Fleming, but he came up with some great innovations for that really good Kent side at the time.
Yeah, there's a fine line between.
But it's well worth a listen, everyone. Well worth a listen.
Definitely have a listen to that.
Can we drop a link in the?
Oh, just
send me a link.
Search Dermot Reeve Talk Sport, but I will pop a link in if I can remember. Right, let's pop over to our listeners' questions. I think we may have. Oh well, before we do that, as we said, hinted at previously. Well, not hinted at. It is happening. Nottinghamshire. Leaders of Division 1 arriving at the county ground on Sunday for what could be a title decider. I think most of the pressure will be on Nick Pepper and his team to get us a result wicket. I'm not sure if Baby Gregory has arrived yet, but assuming that he or she has, then we'd expect Lewis to be back in the team. If he wasn't and TKC was still retained to open the batting, would that be not necessarily the worst thing? Obviously, Lewis, he's in fantastic form, but I think TKC has been in pretty decent nick in both Championship and white ball cricket.
As an accountant, does the budget stretch to pay him for another game?
Well, I don't know. Who knows? I mean, Will Smead did make 100 in the seconds this week down at the Edgbaston Nursery Ground. Utilita Bowl. Not the Utilita Bowl. Utilita Bowl Nursery Ground. I'm expecting a few quid off my electric bill for saying that 3 times.
Being an adopted Scouser, Sheps, you have to put the in front of pretty much every word. So one of the things I couldn't cope with when I moved up here was the Asda, the Tesco. Yeah, and I love the people up here. They are
not the Fortnum and Mason or the Waitrose, then.
No, the little, but. They are second to the my home county, the most warm, friendly, loving people, but by God, do they mangle the English language at times. And I still can't go the game is the other one. Did you go the
Right.
game last night? But so I will still call it the Utilita Bowl, I'm afraid, because I know my brain has been conditioned after 15 years. I can't change that.
Fair enough. Any changes to the side then? I mean, if Gregory's available, he plays. If not, TKC.
Yeah.
Can't think of any other changes to make. Nobody's really knocking on the door with the ball, are they?
I asked this as a question, and not up there with my stupid Banton comment of last week, but I asked this as a question. If Lewis came back in, depending on the pitch, might he take Archie Vaughan's place?
I think if we're going to get a result pitch, it's probably going to be a Turner rather than a green seamer, because I don't know what the weather's going to be like. If it's anything like it has been at the moment, it could start green as grass on 11 o'clock, and by lunchtime it could be straw dry with the weather. So I'd probably want to rely on spin rather than seam to be the method.
I'd be disappointed if Archie Vaughan wasn't in the side. I think we need to invest in Archie Vaughan. I think he's got the class to
Fair point. I ask as a distant observer of the last game rather than with any agenda.
There'd be a good pragmatic case for doing that, actually. But I think you need to invest in your young players, and Archie Vaughan deserves. He's good enough to be get a really long run in the championship side.
Yeah. Just the one question which we haven't answered already is from Trev, who says, Ben Green is doing brilliantly this season. Can you see a scenario where he is back full-time with us?
Not really.
I mean, Dan put a post up about all the bowlers that are out of contract.
I tell you, if Lewis Gregory were to retire because of his long-term injury problem, and which it would not be beyond the bounds of possibility.
He's a specialist bat these days, Gibbo.
Eh?
He's a specialist bat these days.
Well, I dare say, but
well, joking aside, of course he's not. But if he did want to
be
do
an obvious replacement for Lewis Gregory.
Yeah.
But when you've got Craig Overton and Lewis Gregory in the side, there really isn't room for another seam bowling all-rounder.
No. Would he potentially come if we didn't renew Miggy P's contract and we got an overseas batter? Would he then be plotting into that?
That's a good call. Good call.
Well, I think we got batters coming out of our ears, though. That's the trouble. Yeah, especially we had the batters that we had.
We haven't got a left-handed opening bat, which we could jolly well do with, like certain Matt Renshaw or someone similar. Usman Khawaja, although he's gone.
Yeah. I mean, now we've slotted Gregory and Davey into open the batting. That's another two batters that are kind of not in the first 11 now. So we signed another one all of a sudden. We're going to be having 6 or 7 batters on the books. Well, either on the wage bill.
I'm not sure I see Josh Davey as a long-term answer to the thing. Because if he did
it for another 3 years, and scored 700 runs,
worth his place as a bowler, and I'm not sure that he is.
Has he? If he's opening the batting, does he have to be worth his place as a bowler?
Okay, but the point there is, I think, Ian, if he is primarily playing as an opening batsman who can bowl, if really, seriously, this tough because he's been a great servant and all that. But if we have aspirations to win the title or contend every year, there have to be better options for an opening batsman that can bowl. I'm sorry, and that's being very hard nosed about it. But much as I love the fun of it being Lewis and Josh opening the batting at the moment, I don't think that's a long-term sustainable way to win a championship.
I agree, but they ain't growing on trees. And of all the options that we've tried, all the players that we've brought in...
Oh, yeah, at the moment, ain't broke, don't fix it.
Who's been down at 9 and 10 for us for the last, however many years. So part of me says it's probably better the devil you know. And if he can open the batting for another 3 or 4 years, wind down the bowling, then great. Because at the moment he's probably doing a better job than
I just don't.
It has been done. You think Archie Vaughan as well is going to mature and maybe
true.
start next year? He might be ready. You might have somebody else come along who
James Rowe or Thomas Rowe might end up opening the batting long term for Somerset.
James Rowe opens the batting. So if we need to just backfill until we say in 2027 that James Rowe and Archie Vaughan are going to be our opening partnership for the next 10 years, great. Davers, go out. It's yours for next year, and then we'll review. But at the moment, I think that's probably the kind of the long-term plan.
I'll tell you what. Let's have Will Smead and Tom Kohler Cadmore opening the innings.
What is in that cider you've been drinking, Gibbo? Come on.
Well, it won't be a problem getting the 5th batting point if they bat the same length of time that the openers did last week.
Will Smead needs to move his feet a bit more. That's the only thing I think where he will struggle in red ball cricket. He doesn't move his feet.
He does leave a hell of a gate as well between.
Well, do you remember? I think it was a Middlesex game where he left armour opened up from the Trescothic end. Field was up. He put one across Smead for thank you very much. Put another one across him for thank you very much. Didn't move his feet and then boom, straight back in and did him. So. I think that's probably where Smeedy needs to improve. Is definitely his footwork because there is a vulnerability there which potentially isn't there with TKC. But
I'd just love to see Will Smead though in the Championship side before the end of the season.
Yeah, I think maybe 5 or 6. I mean, it's where does he fit in?
Yeah, well, he's got to go. He's got.
Well, and there is there's another cue. I mean, is he ahead of Sean Dixon? Is he ahead of Lewis Goldsworthy? I don't know. These are all questions for other. We haven't answered Trev's question about Ben Green. I'm going to pose a hypothetical now. Look at Ben Green's record at the end of the season for Leicester in Division 2 and say, there's a 24, 25-year-old bowler in Division 2 with this record. You want him?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the plan may be you go there and have a season playing every game. And, to reiterate what you just said, we'll reassess at the end of the season. Well, if it comes to that and he plays like this for Leicester for the rest of the season, he's knocking quite loudly on the Sarge and Jay's doors at the end of the season, isn't he? And that's all you can ask of a player. Yeah,
absolutely. And you sometimes need a bit of luck, maybe an injury, maybe unavailability or something to get your foot in the door. And just go from there. Perform and make yourself difficult to drop. I mean, that's where Paul Casey went wrong this season. He bowled that wonderful spell, best I've ever seen him bowl against Worcester, and then he didn't, really put his hand up to say, right, a lot of fast bowling stocks this year. Look at how I've just bowled, but then he didn't. He wasn't able to follow it up, which is a real shame. And now he's potentially one who's going into the wilderness a little bit now. So, but let's hope not, because I think he's a fantastic cricketer.
Yeah.
Rightio. Do we have any other business? Gibbo and Vic Marks are doing a book signing in the shop on Sunday at lunchtime.
We are. The Captains of England. There we go.
You got yours already, Steve? I didn't think they were out till next Monday.
Steve. There you are. They're both. He's got both of them. Yeah.
Well, I got emailed a PDF of both of them, but I'm still going to buy a copy, Gibbo. Very nice chap at Fairfield has emailed me both of them. So I've had a good look, and but yeah, I will go. I might take up. I've got about 7 of Vic's books as well that I'll probably take up and see if I can get them all signed.
It was Vic's 70th birthday. Yes,
it was. Yes. Days, was it 70? Was it?
Yeah.
Cool. 70 years young, Vic?
Yeah.
Wow.
So happy birthday.
Happy belated birthday to Vic then. Right, I think we're done. Unless we've got any other business, I don't think I've written anything down.
I'm good. Covered all my points, thank you.
Yeah.
Good.
See you on Sunday.
Fantastic, yeah. See you Sunday, Gibbo.
Cheers.
Go well, everyone.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Right, I'm going to stop recording. Don't go till you're 100% uploaded.